let's begin the Realty Plus 40 Under 40 E-Conclave with the first session of the day on the topic Youth for Change, Aligning Social Impact and Business. Let me introduce our panel members. The session will be moderated by Prasenjit Bhattacharya, co-founder and director, Great Place to Work. Great Place to Work is an independent entity doing research and consulting in creating great workplaces. Prasenjit has set up successful businesses that includes Great Place to Work Institute in Sri Lanka, Great Place IT Services Limited, and the Great Manager Institute. And now introducing our eminent speakers in an alphabetical order, I welcome Mr. Akshay Taneja, Director, TDI Infratech Limited. He is a holistic leader who emphasizes that business development should act as a catalyst for social uplift and economic growth of people. He is the newest member of TDI and is dedicated to empowering middle-income communities and advocating for India's urgent need for affordable housing. Our next panel member, I introduce Ms. Pavithra Shankar, Executive Director, Brigade Group. Pavithra Shankar is a master's in business administration in real estate and finance from Columbia Business School, USA, and has over a decade of rich experience in real estate. She oversees residential sales and marketing and IT departments at Brigade Group. Our next very eminent panel member is Mr. Saket Mohta, Managing Director, Merlin Group. Saket Mohta is actively involved in formulating key policies of the company and has also started his social development wing, I Am Kolkata, for the welfare of the community, environment protection, health, education, and skill development of youngsters and women. Our next panel member, Yash Miglani, Managing Director, Migsun Group. A third-generation entrepreneur, Mr. Miglani has been spearheading the transformation of the company and has developed affordable housing under the PMAY scheme. He is also a proponent of skill development under Migsun Pashalam. Our final panel member, I introduce Mr. Yeshwanth Mocherla. He is the hospitality entrepreneur and retail realty investor. Mr. Yeshwanth has over a decade of experience and is seen as an industry leader in the F&B and hospitality sector. The driving force for him is to create more jobs and add value to the economy through his pioneering initiatives in the real estate and hospitality space. So this was our eminent panel being moderated by Prasenjit. I welcome all of you to this session and look forward to a great discussion. Prasenjit, I hand it over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you, Sapna, and privileged to be in this panel. And I can imagine why you asked me to be the moderator, because the panel says Youth for Change. And sadly, I'm not being counted as one of the youth amongst the youth anymore. So I have been sort of kicked up or down or left, right, to be the panel moderator. But thank you for this opportunity. We have such an amazing panel. I'm going to start with a real experience, a story that was shared by friend of mine who was in Kolkata many, many years back. He went to a home loan company. I'll not give you the name of the company. By the end of the story, some of you will guess. Now, this was after 5 p.m. The company was closed, and he was about to turn back when the security guard stopped him and said, "Sir, have you come for a loan?" He said, "Yes, why do you ask?" And it was interesting because the security guard took out a sheet of paper from his table where he was seated. And he said, "Sir, if you don't mind, can I tell you what documents are required for a home loan? And on Monday at 10 o'clock, if you come to our office, Miss Sunita will be there. Your loan will be processed fast." My friend was stunned and he said, "You are a security guard. Maybe you are a contract security guard. Why are you doing this?" And this person explained in Hindi. He said, "Sir, because it is our goal, so many million Indians will have a roof of their own over their head." Now, this is an amazing company. This company also features in our list of best workplaces. But the reality is, what is so amazing is that not that so many million Indians, thanks to this company, will have a roof over their head, but the security guard could really identify himself with aligning the social impact of the business that he is in. And I think in the panel today, we have a set of people who are not just great business people, but each one of them are driven by a need to make a difference. So I'm going to divide this into two parts in the interest of time. The first one is I'm going to talk about, we'll ask each one of you, why are you so passionate about aligning social impact and business? Has there been a particular turning point for you in your own life, right? Where you actually decided that your business will also be an instrument for, social impact. And what I'm going to do is taking a cue from Sapna, go in the same alphabetical order. And maybe in the next round, we can reverse it. So I will start with asking you, Akshay, you are very passionate about affordable housing. I know you do a lot of work around education. Tell me what prompted you to talk about social impact. Give us a sense of when did you, start talking about it or doing something about it.
Sure. Firstly, thank you to Dr. Anurag. Thank you to you and the Exchange for Media Group for having us here to discuss the kind of social impact that we are making for this country and for this industry overall. To reply to you, what you said that kicked out of the youth, I wish we had the experience that you do. So we will not be worried for the next 20, 30 years of our life about making wrong decisions. So yeah. When did I realize that as an industry and as humans, need to make social impacts at our own level. I mean, this year, when I talk about the year 2021 financial year and how this 21-22 financial year has begun with the second wave, I think there can be a big, sign, a bigger reason for you to change the impact of your business and to shift it from the balance sheets to making the social impact. There's no great learning, no greater learning that you can take out of this entire COVID pandemic than to do growth and do sustainable growth. So this has been the biggest reason for me to change our policies, focus more on doing sustainable growth rather than just delivering townships and affordable housing and everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that's fascinating, and I'm going to get back to you with a second question a little while from now about specifically what exactly are you doing in social impact, and I'm going to ask that question to everyone. But moving on to Pavithra. So Pavithra, I love to sort of pull your leg. You are a hotshot MBA finance. You have had probably amongst us the best possible experience in financial analytics. So what is social impact and why are you so inspired by social impact, Pavithra?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for having me on the panel. And Prasenjit, that's quite a funny introduction. I'm pretty sure everyone's quite, strong in the area of finance and everything being in our industry. But yeah, I would say that for about 17 years, I spent in the US studying and working. And
okay, so I think somebody's microphone is not switched off. So if I can ask Sapna or the logistics team to just ensure that everybody else is switched off. Yeah, go ahead, Pavithra.
Yeah. So I actually lived in the US until 2016. And, even 4 years prior to that, I was working for other people, working for, very professional American companies. And the scene in the US is just, I feel, a little different. So upon coming back to India, I came with a, very kind of cold numbers-led attitude, which was sort of like, we need to look at returns, we need to look at profitability. And one of the very first town halls that I was able to physically be a part of in Brigade and in Bangalore, my father, who's the chairman, we were talking about results and how the year was going to be tough, a tough one ahead. And he sort of, the way in which he talked about his responsibility was not just responsibility for the business, but responsibility for the 1,000 people who were on board at that time. We had 1,000 employees at that time. And he personally felt, and still does personally feel, a sense of responsibility for their lives, their career growth, what kind of role they can play and what kind of role we play in helping them progress. And that was something that really stuck with me, because that is kind of, I guess, when I realized that, especially in India, businesses and people like us who have the good fortune to, I guess, be born into a family that has a business, and we can, take on a second generation, or even if we just have the good fortune of building our own businesses from ground up, that business lends itself to becoming such a great platform, not just to, have a successful product and be profitable. And, don't get me wrong, profitability is extremely important. And without that, we don't really have that platform. But once you get there, and once you have these level of connections and know-how and, a whole social circle and professional set of colleagues and networks, you've got to use that to make a difference. Otherwise, what is the point? Especially in a country like ours, it falls to those who have a lot to really try to do something with it and figure out how to, make an impact on others, whatever it may be. So I think that was just a very formative kind of experience for me. And I have to remember that at all times.
So thank you so much for sharing that, Pavithra. And I think in many cases, amongst many of you, I see a common trend, which is, in a family business, the commitment of the family, including the original promoter, to doing something which is socially relevant. So Saket is not on screen, but then I'm going to jump straight to Yash and ask Yash to share his story about social impact. Yash, I know I think skill development and affordable housing is something that you are passionate about. Tell us a little bit more.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me up. And we've been working, so everyone works around for 24/7. So socially, we impact our industry, our culture, our sectors in every scenario. But when it comes to real estate, and that too also affordable housing, where the impact is more, because affordable housing is a product where common man is being hit. So we've been doing about 12,000 apartments as of now under construction, and that is the number we've been focusing on. So where our focus is to deliver homes on time, and housing for all is the most important part for us. So we are trying to focus where in next 3 years, we are able to deliver about 50,000 apartments. So we just want to work on towards the masses where the impact is more. So buying a home is like buying a property where investment is happening. Home is just like where your feelings is involved, your devotion is involved. It's an end-to-end process. And our real estate sector is where, like, it is the second largest sector in the country where the employment is being generated. So socially, our sector is where a lot of things have been involved, and socially we've been helping a lot, because more than 300 industries are involved towards it, if you see.
Right.
So plus a lot of industries are growing because of real estate. So, and there's no generation where land is being increased. So land is fixed. So a lot of industries are helping out with these things in life. And plus banking is getting improved, finance is getting improved, and a lot of database of customers is getting into it. Socially, this is the most intensive industry where impact is there. And I feel we've been working towards that and we've been able to achieve it. Thank you.
Yeah, I can sense that in my own organization. When I talk to my colleagues, I have a lot of people saying that it's their dream to ensure that there is a home because their parents have always stayed in a rented place. And just last year, my office assistant and his brother, they could pull together some money, and thanks to the PM Awas Yojana, They actually got, I think, about 5 lakhs between the two of them. And that was, that's a huge transformation for a lower middle class kind of a person. And Yeshwanth, you have been very passionate about employment generation, I know. A lot of people talk about automation, but you talk about employment generation as well. So what is your route to social impact?
First of all, thank you, Mr. Prasenjit, as well as the entire team of Realty Plus for having me on board in such an esteemed panel. It's my privilege to be among all of you today. So as a human being, I've always thought about it consciously that, there are like 6-7 billion people on the planet. In the overall large scheme of things, it doesn't really matter like, who's on this planet and who earns how much. So I really believe that if at all we are able to create a platform that you can actually really impact people at a large scale, that is the real, purpose of a human being. But obviously, to do that, you really need to have a lot of money to be able to do that, and that's why you need to you actually create wealth. So I've been a first generation entrepreneur, and I've been coming, I've literally come from almost zero. I mean, nobody comes from zero. Obviously, you have a lot of things favoring you and factoring you. So that's a misnomer. But what I've seen is that there's no real value to the money. The number of zeros that you really add doesn't really affect your lifestyle, right? So I believe that I want to create wealth for actually being able to create an impact in terms of changing someone's lives, in terms of creating jobs, or whether it's in healthcare, or whether it's about making a difference. So that, I would say, is the ultimate purpose, right, for creating impact. So that's the fundamental level at which it's about impact creation. How we create avenues to do that is all a matter of the process in which we create. So that, I would say, is my dream.
For a long time, lot of us, me included, we used to believe that our job is to run our business really well, grow our business, pay tax honestly, and therefore it was the job of somebody else, maybe the government, to really ensure that employment generation, infrastructure, and everything else happen. In fact, I think, was it last year or last to last year, when our corporate tax rate got reduced, I wrote an email to the PMO's email ID that you have in the PMO site. And I said, look, we are a profitable business and we can afford to pay the old tax rate, which was slightly higher. So would you like to allow people who can pay higher tax to pay it? Because my job is to grow the business, make money, and your job is to run the country well with less leakages. After a week, I got a response, and it was very nice that they respond. And the email from an undersecretary says that, sir, your mail is in the nature of a suggestion. This is only for complaints. So we are forwarding it to somebody else. Right now, that would have been the end of the matter, except when wave 1 and then wave 2 came. And I said, we can't afford to think that somebody else is going to run the country, take care of society, community, employment generation, infrastructure, education. If we have been given the privilege of running a successful business, then we must have the responsibility of doing something about the country and the community. So I'm going to get into...
Complaint like that.
Sorry?
Suggestion. You should have sent the email again as a complaint.
It is amazing. Actually, I have sent that email by response, by the way, to quite a few people. Yeah. I think it's a very well-meaning kind of civil servant. But coming back now in this round, I want Akshay, starting with you, to tell us specifically what are those 1 or 2 things that you are doing, which is about aligning your business with social impact, and give us some specific examples so that our audience can take back 1 or 2 ideas for their own businesses. Akshay?
So firstly, I would like to, just place where we currently stand, not me or my company or my institution. We as a country, India is currently ranked number 3 after Canada and China when you talk about making a social impact in real estate. So I think the biggest metric to measure how social impact in real estate is the Green Building Code. And currently India has approximately 5 billion square feet, which is 500 crores in, of square feet under the International Green Building Code. And our aim is to go up to 150 billion by 2025. Once that is achieved, we'll be number one. So this is being pushed by the government, and big kudos to the government for making such norms for us, where we have to, sometimes people don't want to do it. Sometimes they only focus on the top line and the bottom line. And these norms really help for entrepreneurs to understand that this is the need of the hour, whether they realize it themselves or not. So, and one more thing I would like to add is that to make your building green, once you achieve it, it only costs 1% of the construction cost. Your cost will increase by only 1%, and the entire building will be converted into green building code. And the energy conservation, the water conservation, the climatical impact, and the social impact on the lives of people that are living there, I mean, you cannot quantify it. So I urge all my peers in Tadai and Redco and every institution that I go to go for it. Don't be scared. It's a misconception that green building, it's a taboo. Ki green building karne ke liye to pata nahi kitna cost ho jayega, the profitability will go. That is not true. So that's my message. Coming back to your question, kind of impacts we have made. I think this year it was all about making COVID camps, getting vaccinations for your labor force, which run into thousands and their families. If you come, we actually ran a Shot of Hope campaign, which was the biggest vaccination drive of Punjab, where we got about, I think, close to 6,000 people. If you go on our social handles, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you'll see the kind of coverage we got, and also the videos that we wanted to cover it so people see it and we inspire it as well. So that was one thing which really touched me, to stand there, knowing that we are vaccinating people, saving their lives head on. So that was one. Another one was where we started the National COVID Helpline, where we partnered with a couple of local hospitals in every state, and we just disseminated the number to our social media pages, PR agencies, and we were getting close to 300 to 400 calls every day, and obviously free of cost, because once all these Tracto and all these people come in, when they keep charging, they do, that's the business model, but they charge money for consultation. And people don't want to, everyone wants to take at least 2-3 advice from doctors to know what exactly they should do if they're unwell. So that is something that I felt was good on our part, to start the helpline. And so these two things, what I did this year, which I proudly can tell my company and my peers that TDI as an institution has done this. Apart from this, you can go on our website. We are very active. We run a school, we have a hospital, and all of that is for impact.
I've seen that, and thank you. And I would encourage people to go to the websites of all the companies that the panel represents here, because I know that specifically your interest in education, Akshay, also in urbanization and urbanization in a sustainable manner. Pavithra, give us 1 or 2 examples of social impact that you have seen in your business, and particularly the kind of examples which are which can be replicated, which maybe others can also think of.
So I would also sort of echo that what Akshay is saying about green building and sustainability and following those kind of practices, both in design and also in construction. In our industry, obviously, one of the most polluting, elements is construction. But at the same time, if you look at the flip side, there is a massive need for housing in this country, and new housing, where the housing, where the design, where the provision of your basic facilities such as water and electricity and so on are provided in such a way that it is more sustainable for large communities to live together. And even by nature of creating large residential enclaves, and situating them around transit hubs and so on, like one is actually helping to sort of improve the way in which we're, using resources of the planet. So, I mean, that's just in general in terms of our approach towards sustainability and, construction itself. With the design of the project, I think and this is specifically talking about the product per se. We strongly believe that just by creating a really good place to live with all the required amenities and maybe mixed use lifestyles where somebody can walk to their office or take their kids to school around the corner, or have a hospital nearby, or go shopping close by where you don't even need to drive a car. All these smaller things actually do add up in terms of leading a more sustainable kind of lifestyle. But that is more in the product of what we do. And that's by nature our business. And that helps us give us some sense of purpose as well, and as to why are we doing this? It's not just building a home, but what kind of home and what kind of lifestyle are you trying to encourage? But separately from that, the company and our company also supports 3 schools through our foundation. And while these are for-profit schools, the schools themselves are, they are the source of funds for which we can support other initiatives. So while the schools are being run as for-profit, because they are, they're able to support multiple other initiatives, including, supporting other schools that are not able to get the correct kind of resources. We support multiple government schools and a blind school, a school for blind children close to one of our institutions. We also support like a museum for music. So it's the first interactive music museum in the country. And, I think a lot of times people think of very lofty ideas for, social impact, but the arts, I feel, is something that's extremely important, because art, music, literature, all of these things actually, give us that reason to, find joy in life. And I think especially in times of, difficulty and so on, these are things that can actually get us through. So while someone may think, why would you, support something like a museum, a music museum? I think that is just encouraging people to actually give some of their attention and passion towards something that can really improve the quality of life of people.
Yeah.
In addition to that, of course, over the last couple of years, COVID efforts, but I do hope that in future, we can rely, you did mention that it is the responsibility of corporates to provide a lot of, things that we expect the government to do. But I think there are some things like public goods, like healthcare and infrastructure that, yes, we can invest, but it does require the government support and policy making and so on to give us a framework in which we can actually do that in a sustainable manner. So, I think corporates are all ready to do that, but there has to be the right kind of framework and structure that we can actually make that happen.
Thanks, Pavithra. I think something so interesting and so basic, which at least I did not know, that it doesn't cost the earth to make your constructions green. And it's like, if I'm buying a house, why would I not spend 1% extra if I knew that this is a more sustainable kind of habitat? And this is, there's such a need to really inform people. One of the things which you didn't talk about, Pavithra, is that your organization has been recognized as a great place to work for so many years, over 10 years. So therefore, one social impact that you are creating is also on your own employees and their families and their relatives. And I think the third thing which is coming out is we often tend to take social impact and corporate social responsibility very, very seriously, as if, oh my God, I have a responsibility and I'm doing it. I think it can also be fun. I know of one organization in Bombay, in Dharavi, where this organization has a bunch of guys who play football. And they got in touch with a NGO, which, by the way, also features in our list of best workplaces. And they came up with an idea that we'll form a football club in a slum area. But this is a football club with a difference. This is a football club for girls. Now, the community won't allow the girls to go and play football. So they actually had to first convince the mothers to come and play football themselves. And you can imagine that it's a very conservative kind of community. Now, what I'm trying to say is that your passion could be very different. Your music, I know, is your passion, Pavithra. There could be a passion that is very different for somebody else. But it is possible that you can also make an impact through your passion if you are an entrepreneur or you are in that privileged position. So coming to Yash, tell us a little bit more in specific details about the work that you or your organization does.
Yes, I agree with Akshay that green building is one of the most important and where socially impact has been there. And it is just not the cost which has been involved into it. So when we do green building and we get about 5% of extra FAR from the government. So that is one of the best advantage where real estate could get about it. And socially it has been helpful also. That is one of the plus point. Apart from that, a lot of things we do in our organization is, so we have been putting up camps for our employees for the COVID, this vaccines and all, and for our laborers also. Right now, we have about more than 15,000 laborers at our sites and all. So the habitation has been there at the site. So we've been vaccinating all our laborers. We're trying to get it done. Every weekend, we've been doing it so that in the next third wave, we don't have that kind of impact we as of now. So we've been working on that. So we're into education also. So we have more than about 3,000 students. It's a management institute. A lot of NGOs being run by us and governed by us for that matter. In terms of the free education we've been doing in the evening classes. Plus we got into healthcare, been doing about 2 lakh square feet area of healthcare where a lot of things being governed for the local bodies where free medications and all that separate entities been created for that. So these are the different things we've been doing. And for as far as the real estate is concerned, so we have given EMI waivers to our customers. Let's suppose a customer is giving an EMI of about 20,000 rupees to a bank. So because of this COVID time, we have given a waiver of about 9 odd months to the customer. So that is a huge amount which have been impacted socially for the customers, because ultimately when a customer is there, it is like a family. So we want to build our brand in a way where the socially everyone has been impacted and it's a positive impact for the customers. So that is the very important thing we have done it for real estate. And I feel this is the most, and interest waivers also, a lot of things we've been doing in those scenarios.
Yeah. And I think you can clearly see the difference between organizations which are being created for a long term versus, let us say, many new age valuation driven kind of businesses where which have a very short term focus. Because most of the organizations that I see, including the ones that you represent, they have two things in common. One is they want to run the business well, profitably, but equally important, they want to have long-term stakeholder relationships, starting with their customers, because that is, these two things coexist. And coming to Yeshwanth, what would you like to add in terms of specific examples of social impact that organizations can make, and what have you been doing?
So it helps that we are a consumer-facing company, right? So because we have to be, there are like literally tens and thousands of people consume a product on a daily basis. So the first thing that we actually started off is with sustainable packaging. So obviously, as a company, you don't want to be in a position where you're really creating a lot of environmental impact. But having said that, obviously, business concerns are also there. So you have to maintain a balance, and we have tried to go to the sustainable packaging, wherein it's great for the consumer and also great for the environment. And we have consciously I believe in this concept called creative capitalism, right? So, we make money and we are capitalistic, but also you impact the society. So that's how it has to be. I'm not a socialist, in that mindset. So in that sense, we have developed a lot of franchise networks. So we have like over 100 franchisees who are small and medium business entrepreneurs for whom running that enterprises and making some money makes a real impact in their life. Most of the people who work in our stores are obviously, people at the lowest, one of the lowest strata of society, and whatever they get paid, it's actually a huge deal for them. We also have tied up recently with this foundation called Akshay Patra Foundation. We worked with them last year, wherein we created a whole line of milkshakes called Joy of Giving Shakes. So whenever a consumer orders it on Swiggy or Zomato, the entire proceeds go to the Akshay Patra Foundation, and we also add the same amount of money back. And even when there were floods, we did something. And even obviously in COVID, obviously, every company did something. And we just introduced the vaccination. We were one of the first companies actually to introduce the vaccination walk-in discounts. So whoever gets vaccination, they are automatically entitled to certain discount. It's also a marketing tactic, but also it's great that you are able to show that actually care for consumer, because today's consumers, especially millennials who are below the age of 27, 28, or 25, they really don't care much about any product or any company. They only see how it impacts them as well as how it impacts the world around them. So today's millennials are much more confident. They just don't care about themselves, right? I mean, Generation Z, and they don't care about themselves, because India has become more developed, and they really want to see how any company is impacting the society among them, and that's how it is. And as Ms. Pavithra has also said, it's not about having only lofty goals. Like it's not about creating a huge impact. It doesn't happen that way, I guess. So I think we have to do it in a small way. So we are also creating a new food brand. We're coming up with a healthy food brand with Mr. Tiger Shroff. So there we actually want to make people very fit. I mean, we genuinely believe that people are people are generally unhealthy, right? So, including myself, I'm not really the healthiest person around, but I genuinely believe that if you are able to give something that is also creating an impact, and also we are creating wealth, I think that's the way to live a satisfied life. I mean, obviously, a man can really not change the whole world, but whatever we do, if there is some angle to it, I believe it's all about satisfaction. I mean, it's about that is what I feel.
I think that's put very, very well. In about 5 minutes time, we are going to open up for question answers. So if people have questions, they can maybe use the chat options. What I'm very interested in knowing from any of you, or maybe all of you, is vis-a-vis the impact of business in making a social impact. Now, how has COVID-19 changed things, whether it is your relationships with your stakeholders and society, or the way your relationship with employees? What do you see as are fundamental things which are changing because of COVID-19? And this is a free-flowing kind of question, so your take could be on any aspect.
Sorry, I was on mute. So I believe after this, the COVID-19 hit us, I came back from college about 6 years back in 2015, and never in these 5 or 6 years have I been so involved with my employees, because naturally a lot of them got unwell, a lot of their family members passed away, and it was solely, it was on our responsibility, the onus lied on us to provide as much as we can. So, be it getting the oxygen concentrators, making sure that the logistics are there, they have the e-passes to move around, the medical supplies are being delivered. And once you get to know that someone is unwell, whether you know that person or you don't, or if that person works for you, or they are your neighbors, relatives, you somewhere you do get emotionally attached to them. So that is one thing that I realized, that now I know more about my companies, people, how emotional they are. I speak to them on the phone sometimes to check on their health, which I never used to do. It was all professional before this. So this pandemic really made me a part of, the culture was to more interactive with them. That's what I feel.
I can't resist on that note, inspired by what you said, to also share, last year, around April or May, we sent a small video to the parents or families of all our employees saying, thank you for allowing your home to be our office, because we never thought that that we have to really ask our employees' parents and their spouses or families to give us their home as their office. And this is such a, we just took it for granted that,
Exactly.
now our office is your home. Sorry, our office cannot be your home. You are not paying a rent and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
This year, as a mark of gratitude, because our business did reasonably well in spite of COVID, we shared 10% of salary of all employees with either their parents or their family, whoever they are staying with, because a lot of my people are very young. Again, saying that over the last 1 year, you have supported our colleagues and by the grace of God, we have done reasonably well. Here is a small sort of token of thanks that we want to give you. And now in my organization, it is sadly or interestingly, it is called 10% scheme. That means 10% should go to parents because they are such important stakeholders. So any other observation that Pavithra, you or Yeshwanth have on impact of COVID on the way you are running your business? Yeah.
I think we sort of to echo what Akshay said, and it really sort of, I mean, people have always talked about how leadership requires empathy and to understand your employees and what they're going through. And this could not have been, more true than during the last few months. And I think with the second wave, because it was coming into everybody's home, and my home, my whole family, almost all of our employees, their relatives, and so on. I think it really sort of made me think twice about what we were asking for from all of our employees, while assuming what their stress level might be at any given time. And one of my employees, one of my team members basically said, just because someone is carrying it well doesn't mean the load isn't heavy. So even if someone isn't a complete mess because they're experiencing something terrible, it doesn't mean that they're having an easy time of it. So a lot of it was about having grace under pressure, and still putting still trying to think about what other people might be going through when one is responsible for delivering results, and still trying to extract those results from people, because in the end, we still had to do those things. So I think that was a big thing. And also for all of us, society at large, we all acknowledge that there are many people in this country who don't have a safety net. But during this second wave, I think we realized that was a much, much larger group of people than we ever thought, including many of us. Like when you're struggling for air and oxygen and basics and things like that, I think that was very, very hard hitting. And I think that's something, it's going to take some time to sort of get over that realization for all of us.
Isn't it? We always assume that, worst case scenario, if I have money in the bank, I have the best medical facilities. But all that money didn't give some people what they needed in the second wave. So we were in the same boat. And that's, I think, is such a big realization that if we do not have a country with basic minimum standards for all our people, none of us are safe. None of us can, relax.
So Prasenjit, this reminds me of a saying actually. So, the saying, which is a cliche, is money doesn't grow on trees. But recently I was in the Himalayas and I was just crossing the road, and there was a board there which said, trees don't grow on money either. So this perfectly fits well the notion that empathy does not, you cannot buy empathy, you cannot buy care, and you cannot buy back the time, that has gone past this year. So it's really upon us to work hard in the future, not for 1 year, but for a long, long period of time to make sure that everyone recovers from this well.
Absolutely.
Sanjit,
Go ahead.
I would also like to add that, what you have said about COVID. I think COVID has been a really great leveler for all of humankind in general, because humans as a species, we have always been battling pandemics. I mean, it's not really new, but obviously in the last 100 years, I mean, since we have been born, we really never got this situation where we were in a pandemic. So, when a virus has really disrupted the whole human beings, we actually have consciously thought about why are we even living this life and what are we running around for, right? So I think, as you rightly said, how many number of zeros that you may have at the end of your bank balance, it really doesn't matter when death happens, and death is actually an inevitability that is something that has been so starkly clear to every one of us. So I think having that perspective gives us a very clear, conscious choice of what you actually want to do in life and make it happen. So I think I think that's the way the whole perspective has changed among everyone. I mean, it's not about just working, and working is just part of the life, but why are we living life for, and what do you really want to do with it, right? So I think it's really about impact and really about living your life. I think it's a great discussion that Realty Plus has come up with at the start of the fantastic event as well. And I'm really proud to be part of this panel exchanging such great thoughts.
Absolutely. I mean, I would request Sapna and our other colleagues, in case there are questions, to come and unmute yourself and tell the panel. And I think to sum up what I think a lot of you are saying, you gave so many practical ideas. You said that at just 1% cost, you not only get a green sort of habitat, you actually also get government incentives. You have, I think by now, all our employees have got at least one vaccination. And that is also because of the initiative that you guys and a lot of corporates have taken. You talked about the impact on employees and how this is the time, and our own studies show that our engagement has gone up by more than 5 percentage points in corporate India, because employees are realizing that we are one family, and examples that you have given. And also from a business point of view, whether you give a EMI sort of extension to your customers, or you actually give a discount to customers who have been vaccinated, you are trying to take the impact beyond NGOs and social causes to stakeholders like customers. So Sapna, is there anything you would like to add? Yes.
Yes, we have a lot of questions, but we'll take a few of them. But I think what has come up from this session is one, the pandemic has been kind of a wake-up call for a lot of us, lot of learnings and time of retrospection. I believe, like Yeshwanth said, what we are doing, where are we going, what direction we are in, and we have seen some fantastic initiatives from corporates, and especially seeing that young leaders thought process is in the right direction. So the future is bright. One very good question that we have is, they are asking, what should be the measure of success in the present scenario? Now what should be the definition of a corporate success? Prasenjit, up to you. Should we ask all the speakers to share?
Yeah, I think I would like any of the panelists to respond, and then I also have a point of view, which I would be very happy
Pavithra,
to give.
let's start from you. What, according to you, what success means for a business?
Well, I would still echo what I said in the beginning. And the first goal of a business is, the reason for why it exists. Is it making a product that somebody wants? Is it creating value? Is it, meeting a need that is out there? And in creating and, in putting that product out there, how exactly is it being done? Like how are employees being engaged to do it? What are the resources that you're using? Are you using them responsibly? And, how do you get to that point? I think all of that is extremely important. And all of that does result in certain numbers related success, which is important for all stakeholders, financial as well as everyone else. In addition, I think we all look up to companies who have gone beyond what they do in terms of a product and have used their company as a platform to have way more impact than, whether somebody buys whatever it is they're offering. They still sort of, have some respect for that company because of what else they are doing. And I think that is really it. And finally, I feel that the people behind the company, or the all of the people behind the company, have a sense of value and worth if they're putting something out there and getting a real sense of purpose when they do it. So success comes for the corporation on a couple of fronts, but it also means success of the people who make up that corporation. And we may not recognize that all the time, but that is also true. A lot of people have their lives radically changed because of how they, for the time that they have spent in any company, along with them and going with them on that mission.
Fantastic. Akshay, what, according to you, till now we used to think revenues is what measures success. According to you, what is success now?
Well, I think after this panel discussion, I'm pleasantly surprised and I'm awe-inspired by what Pavithra has said, that by making a social impact and, the new way to do it is by imparting art and culture. And, how they're supporting a museum for music and, some kind of culture that they're pushing, and how she explained that by doing that, you can also make a social impact on the quality of people's lives. I think that's a great learning from this session for me, and I'm surely going to implement it. And I think once you learn something new, you feel a kind of success that you've achieved. And I think a measure of success should be that you learn something new every day, and then you try to impart it, in your own network. So that's one way of measuring success.
So constant learning, keep learning. That's what Akshay is saying.
And then use your platform, to spread.
That's right. That's very right. Yeshwanth, what do you have to add? What is success according to you?
Sapna, I think it's a very tough question. And obviously the pandemic has really changed the whole scenario of what is success. What I thought was success is no longer success. And I don't think it's a destination, because as a human being, we're always, there's no limit. You always keep wanting more. So I think it's more about, it's a kind of a cliche, but I really feel it now that it's more of a journey than a destination. And we have to make that journey beautiful, not just for us, but also for the people around us. And, for the less privileged among us, because all said and done, we are among the 0.01% of the people in
Prasenjit, over to you. I think we have some connectivity.
Of the wealth. That's the reality of India and of the world.
Yeah.
So we have to understand. So we have to understand that 1% of Indians control 70% of the wealth, and we are obviously among the.
Yeah, I think Yeshwanth
will be able to create that impact. So yeah, I think if you're able to do that in our own way, that is success.
Okay, so we are not alone. We have to do it collectively. Prasenjit.
No, I think at the cost of taking 2 extra minutes, I'll be slightly philosophical, because not everyone thinks about it that way. So if we really look at it, let's look at 2 contrasts, taking off from what Yeshwanth said. Let's look at the richest man. You can call him Bill Gates or you can call him Mukesh Ambani. And now let us look at a pavement dweller who does not have power, who does not have wealth, who may not even have 2 meals a day. Now, this is the contrast that you can imagine, right? Now, the question that you have to ask is, if you go back 500 years, did Bill Gates or Mukesh Ambani or Prasenjit Bhattacharya or Yeshwanth or Akshay or Pavithra start off being the richest in whichever areas that they were in? And if you go back still further, there is something called as a state of nature, where we assume that everyone is equal. And then a few things happened. What happened is that we created some rights, like property rights. We created courts, we created contracts, we created an enforcement mechanism for those contracts. And as all of this happened, the fact of the matter is, today nobody is coming right now behind me, putting a gun on my head and saying that give me your money. All of these we take for granted. Now, all of this came because of a social contract that happened. Whether we signed that contract or not is meaningless, because we are beneficiaries of that contract, and therefore it is assumed that we are part of the contract. So success for me is helping businesses create more wealth in a manner that the most disadvantaged of people amongst us also stand to benefit. So therefore, you cannot tax Mukesh Ambani so much that he loses the incentive to create wealth altogether. Yeah. But at the same time, you must expect that because this wealth that we created is a result of a social contract, whether we like to accept it or not. And everything that we take for granted is because people, that pavement dweller included, is voluntarily agreed to a system which enables us to be rich. Therefore, it is our obligation that we create more wealth. And in the process of creating more wealth, some part of it also helps that pavement dweller or whoever is the least powerful or privileged. That is my definition.
Very well said.
I think fantastically summarized what the views of all our other panel members was also, let's have an equitable distribution of wealth, or it is, facilities, and as Yash Miglani mentioned that, they are trying to take the stakeholders together, whether it is, consumers or customers or vendors or other participants. Fantastic session. I think we got to learn a lot of things, and most importantly, got to know that what our young leaders of the sector are thinking on this. So thank you, Akshay, for sharing your views, Pavithra sharing your wonderful views, Yeshwanth for joining in and sharing what you are doing in this segment. Thank you so much. And Prasenjit for so well, bringing those views out from our panel members. Thank you so much. Yash had to leave early, but thanks, Yash, for being here and sharing your two bits on this topic of social impact. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us today.